y entra, ¿eh?
You're live. Hi.
Sí, ya
Wonderful.
estamos. Venga, vámonos. Buenos días.
Ya
Good morning.
estamos.
Good morning.
Good
Good.
morning, everyone, and welcome. It's been a pleasure that all of you are here. We are so happy that you are joining us live today to present our ebook and the wonderful insights that we want to share with you with our ebook, Dare to Transform. And the purpose of today is not to repeat what is in the ebook. Our goal is really to expand on it, to take you deeper into the conversation behind the scenes. So this ebook was created after our attendance to ATD 25, which Inigo will explain a little bit longer, where we were exposed to some of the most relevant global trends in talent development, AI readiness, learning agility, emotional intelligence, multi-generational collaboration, resilience, and all the things and new expectations that we have in our today's workforce. So we want to bring those insights to any leader who wants to grow intentionally in 2025. You will be hearing from three voices today, Inigo, Joanna, and myself. And we are missing, unfortunately, one of our author, Bettina, that she cannot join us today, but she for sure will be listening to us later. So each of us contributed a chapter to the book. And together we bring perspective from HR, learning, talent strategy, and leadership development. And this is what we want to share with you. So, Indigo, tell us what is ATD and why it matters.
So, ATD is the largest association in the world dedicated to talent development professionals. Those of us who are passionate about developing people in organizations. Um, they have the biggest conference in the world. It's about 10,000 people. It moves around the US. This year was here in DC, in my hometown here, Washington, DC. And it gathered about 10,000 people from all over the world.
Mhm.
It's this place to find, they have a huge expo with all the providers, LMS, AI providers, everybody in the solution, in the learning space, in the talent development space. And they have 300 education sessions. You and I were privileged to speak this year at ATD conference, and they had three phenomenal keynotes, Simone Biles, Amy Edmondson, and Seth Godin. It was a great conference. We have been combinedly attending for many, many years, the three of us. And I think it's the place to be if you want to develop your skills as a talent development leader, talent
Mhm.
development professional. You should be here every year. You should come to the conference every year. It's a place to network, to learn from each other, to present and present new content, and basically to challenge your thinking and to question and to learn what's coming. What are the new trends that are coming into the workplace, right? And they're going to impact the
Yes,
future of the workplace, the employees. That's
yes,
it.
totally. And this is one of the reasons for those that cannot attend. This is the reason why we want to share with you the main insights with this ebook. And now that you have walked us through why HD matters and why this is important, tell a little bit more about you. What are your business and how you support your clients before we start to, dig deeper.
All right, thank you. So I am the bridge between personal readiness and professional success. I do a lot of work in purpose. I help individuals, teams, and organizations unleash their purpose. What is their main purpose? What are they meant to do in this planet, on Earth, right? All of us. Each one of us has something there that we're meant to do here: transform, educate, create beauty, solve a major problem or issue in the world. And each organization, once they start, they originate the organization, there's a purpose on it, right? I want to solve the problems of mobility in the work. I want to connect everybody, like Meta does. Some of the companies have very strong organizational purpose, right? So I do that work. I also work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I work in leadership development, and one of my passions is executive coaching. I work with leaders to transform, to unleash their potential, to remove their limiting beliefs. and to become better leaders, right? To lead better in organizations, right? To become a leader, not a manager, right? Because they're very different concepts,
Yes.
right? And I'm passionate about it, and I love doing the work that I do. I work in Latin America, here in the US, and also in Europe. So, Joanna, tell us, what do you do? How do you impact clients?
Well, thank you, Yvette, for the presentation, and thank you, Inigo, for telling us a little bit more about your career. I mean, I'm always inspired by your masterminds and your purpose workshops. And I mean, it gives you perspective as to what you're looking for and what you want out of your career. And I think that that's also like what I find in ATD as well. It is a space where where learning is generally shared, not competed for. And it really resonates with me because that's exactly what keeps me returning every year. So for me, attending ATD each year has been generally transformational. I come from a a business background, and when I entered HR, I was looking for a space where I could learn directly from experience, not only from theory or models, but from actual practitioners who have tried, who have improved and iterated and learned from different models. And ATD became that space. I mean, immediately, really. So I appreciate really the openness. I mean, the openness that you and Yvette also had, when we started working in this project, because, sharing knowledge is really what inspires me and gives me purpose. So I think that, this is why I attend ATD and join this project. So Yvette, I think it's important for us, to also know why and how do you support your clients?
Thank you, Joanna, for asking that. And yes, I'm totally blessed, feeling blessed that we voluntarily decide to share our knowledge and our learning experiences worldwide, right? Because we have written this ebook in Spanish and in English. And I'm totally with you. I see that we have this common goal. So the way that I support my clients is in three core ways, all aligning with the work that I have done across countries, region, and cultures. The first is an PCC certified coach, executive coach, basically, and I help leaders as Inigo strengthen their self-awareness, their emotional intelligence, and influence, so they can lead with clarity, with confidence, and a strategy, especially nowadays with this huge uncertainty that everybody's living in the workplace. The other way that I help my customer is as a talent HR development consultant. I partner with organizations to reshape their talent strategies, develop leaders, and build cultures that are ageless, collaborative, and most importantly, future ready for this AI era that we are living. And finally, through my speaking engagement, I provide global strategic view on ageism, inclusive leadership, psychological safety, and future ready talent. So now let's see what is the intention behind the scene from us. And as I mentioned at the beginning, that Bettina is not here. And Inigo, I would like to hear from you. Why do you decide to write this ebook?
So this came out of an informal conversation, the four of us at the conference, right, with Bettina, and we said, I think we should put in words all our years of experience, what we're getting from the conference, the connections, the learning, the trends that we see, and how we can translate that into practical strategies, practical takeaways, insights on how people can transform their mindset, right? I think this is a huge conversation about, it's not about still being an order taker, right? Can you put together this leadership training for 100 employees on my department? We need to shift that, right? We need to shift the conversation. And I think talent development professionals still do not have shifted that mindset in a great percentage. So the idea of the book was trying to explore new ideas, change your mindset, explore failures. Like Amy Edmondson, I wrote an article about Amy Edmondson's keynote, who talked about intelligent failures, right? Failures who do not cost us a lot of money, but it's a trial until I succeed in one project or another project, right? So the
Yes.
whole idea with the book was that experiment, trying to shift the mindset. What was your idea about the book? Why did you decided to say yes, Yvette?
Well, definitely it's kind of an adventure. Why not trying, even putting ourselves out of our comfort zone? And we are doing either way the job. We are, learning, we are sharing knowledge, we are sharing experiences. And I think that what inspired me the most was to really open the possibility for our colleagues in Spanish speaking countries, many of them that unfortunately couldn't attend, that we can provide the new trends, the new information available to them. And also, of course, we decided to do in English as well. But I think that is opening opportunities to those that are not listening firsthand, what are those major changes that we are experiencing in the workplaces. And now that you said that, I would like to go to Joanna, to go back to Joanna, because you mentioned in you about that we need still a lot of mindset shift in our talent development. So, Joanna, what are those things that you consider imperative for talent professionals today?
Well, I mean, I believe that we're at a defining moment in our field right now. I mean, things are changing so quickly. AI is driving the redesign of roles, new learning expectations, and multi-generational workplaces. And we need to decide whether we simply react to change or lead it, right? So one of the keynotes that actually was very deep for me was Simone Biles. I mean, she represents courage. I mean, I mean, like, the moment that she started telling her story and how she's an orphan, right? And she was adopted at a very early age and given all these opportunities, but it still takes courage to take the opportunities, go further, and actually experiment to what you're given. So I think that is exactly what we need as a profession right now. It's to go out and try. So what is the imperative is probably embrace curiosity and strategic adaptability and the courage to challenge that status quo. I mean, we can no longer operate only from process and execution, as Inigo just said. I mean, we cannot be order takers. We need to understand that the business that we are in, we need to understand technology and understand the human transition behind all of it. And that's why, in the book, we emphasize moving from administrative HR to intentional talent transformation. So that means experimenting intelligently, redesigning learning experiences, and supporting the organization before, the actual disruption arrives. So I think, we are driven as a profession to promote change. But in order to promote change, we need to embrace that, curiosity and courage that Simone very brilliantly explained in her keynote. And I think it's worth bringing into this conversation. And I think that also, drives us to our next question. And Yvette, I'm coming back to you now. So this is impacting, ageism as well. And I think it's, would like to know, how does ageism interfere with the future ready culture?
Yeah, thank you for that. And this was my speaking also with my adorable colleagues, Tonya Wilson. So ageism interferes with future-ready cultures because it quietly shapes who leader thinks is capable of learning, adapting, or even innovating. And the problem with that is that it hides behind labels like young talent, high potential, or digital native. And the problem with those labels that it becomes filters, right? Not based on performance or potential, but on age. Examples that I have seen many times in my coaching session, a leader dismissed one of his stronger team member simply because he wasn't part of the young talent group, right? And then immediately he just disregarded, no, he's not ready. So he was excluded from innovation and development opportunities only due to age, not because of his ability or his competence. And this is why ageism is so critical, and why this matter, because it works silently and systematically. The bad thing is that it is costly as well. Companies underestimate this problem. So more than 60% of worker over 45 reports being victims of ageism at some point in their life, even because they suffer for hiring biases, for development, for promotion, or either for innovation. So the impact is huge in our organization. It limits our capacity to see the talent and the future, without these age barriers in our mind. Now, what our call, and we mentioned that in our ebook, is to stop doing that, to stop slowing collaboration and the transformation, because the irony is that the same leaders who want agility often exclude the people who bring, context, strategic depth, culture, and those are key ingredients for the innovation and for the growth that they want to have in this AI area. So now, more than ever, I think that we have to open our eyes and to see how our age biases are affecting us when we are making decisions. And we are talking about that in our ebook. And now, Inigo, what is that so critical today to have leader who genuinely cares, about people?
So basically, thank you for the question, Yvette. Basically, it's inspired on Seth Godin, which is one of the biggest gurus on marketing right now in the United States, and he talked about the importance of having leaders who truly care about employees. Right? We've been used to use the employees as a factory, as a spare parts, as an interchangeable part of the factory line. Right? We have to change that mentality. We have to care. We have to create, as leaders, environments where people can contribute, can speak up, can have the freedom to question those leaders, and can thrive in those environments. Mm-hmm. And that can only happen if you create trust, if you have enough emotional intelligence as a leader to care for them, to truly care, and they will take care of the business, right? It seems like a typical expression, but it is true. You have to take care of your employees because they are the main element of every single organization in the world. And we tend to do the opposite, right? We treat them as spare parts, as, we let them go when things go bad, and we don't take care of the people, right? And we overburn people by giving them too much work when there's layoffs and people burn out and people start leaving. Mm-hmm. And the moment it's always the same thing. The moment the economy recovers, people will seek for something better, because something better, not only in terms of salary, but in terms of being treated better, having a career where I can grow and expand. And it's clear, right? It's very interesting what Seth Godin mentioned, and I mentioned it in the article, is we have significant work in our future, significant work as a choice. Significant work requires leaders who truly cares, not managers, right? Who just manage people. It's a different concept. One thing is leading, the other one is managing. It requires ambiguity because we live in a very ambiguous work environment with all the disruption that is coming up with AI. Everything is changing completely. So I think we have to adapt. Now leads me to a question for Joanna. Joanna, how does your own career reflect the shifts that we talked about during ATD?
Well, thank you, Inigo. It's quite interesting, right? Because it connects perfectly on how careers are shifting today. When I look back at my career, it doesn't actually follow a linear path, HR path. It's more like a twisted line that comes back and forth and is looking for its own purpose. Just to reflect on your comment, I studied business administration, worked nearly 10 years, or I would say 10 years in logistics. So then I discovered my real purpose in talent development, and I explored every part of talent development, from performance, learning, coaching, analytics. And today I'm deeply involved in AI and HR technology, working aside, developers and teams of data analytics, and I'm trying to understand what data means for HR teams to make better decisions.
Mhm.
And it's quite interesting how this change has happened over time. And I would say it just happened organically and just by opening doors and being open to opportunities.
Mhm.
So it's how much you try and you tempt in the different spaces that are open to it. So in the conference, one of the studies that is actually referenced in the ebook analyzed millions of HR professionals and found exactly this, that careers in our field are no longer linear. And this is from Dieter Welsman from AIHR. And his study was quite interesting. And funny thing happens is that I didn't realize that he was sitting next to me in the airplane when we were arriving in Washington. And you're sitting in the airplane, you have somebody next to you, and they're working in HR. You feel like, oh, that's the same thing I do. And then I saw his presentation, and it made a lot of sense, right? When he was talking about how you can start in as a learning professional, then move into performance and trying to understand how that learning impacts performance on people. And then you dive into the business to understand how that happens in real world. So, and in this case, I actually saw the person that was presenting next to me working on his PPT. That was quite interesting as an anecdote. But coming back to the point, my journey reflects that, every shift demands curiosity, humility, and openness to reinvent myself professionally. And I believe that is what we are called to model now. Because if we expect teams to embrace continuous learning and intelligent risk-taking, then we must embody it first and change, and be that change that we want in everybody else to happen. And that's mainly what I can share at this point. But I think that
I want to ask you a question related to what you just said, because you said, you went to performance, you went into the coaching, and then you went to performance, and then from performance to the business outcomes. How do we help talent development professionals to think more of the business outcomes, right? Because the three of us are passionate about helping them, but how do they start thinking from the data analytics to the business goals, right? Because that's what most of all the directors or leaders in organizations claim, that HR and talent development professionals are not in the decision-making table. They don't know about my business. They don't, they have very low business acumen. How do we drive them to that?
We drive HR, right? Or business leaders?
Both HR and talent development. How do we encourage them to learn more, to really focus deeply into the business, right, of their organization?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think it's first about changing the perspective and changing the language, right? So what happens usually with learning professionals is that you would be called to say, this is the business leader, and it's saying, my people don't sell. I have a sales team, and the sales are not happening. So what happens next is that we come with the mindset of, so what do you want to develop on them? So should we develop communication? Should we develop, managing objections, or should we make a training on negotiation? And that mindset there is the order taker. Instead
reactive.
of exactly instead of coming like trying to understand what the problem is. So why are they not selling? What is happening? Going back and observing the actual sales and how they happen, and trying to understand where the gap is from the actual field, right? Going to the field and being, okay, so the issue, and this is an actual, an actual story. I was working in a company trying to analyze sales for a call center. And one of the reasons that the call center agents weren't making sales is that 70% of them had microphones that didn't work. So it wasn't necessarily a problem of learning; it was a problem of technology, because they weren't heard by the people they were trying to reach to sell them something. Wow. So sometimes you need to step back a bit, understand the situation, and from there start designing, not all the way around. You have a request, and then you kind of like obey the request, or you go back, analyze the situation, and as a talent professional, decide what is the best way to improve the performance of the team. And that's where you become an advisor instead of an order taker. So
Yeah.
sorry, I think you
Yeah,
deviated.
and just to add to what you say, Joanna, and again, this is a call for our HR folks. There is no other way to learn about the business that we support that is spending time with them. There is no other way. And because most of us are working virtual, right? You need to spend time with your business leader. You need to understand their really critical pain point, how they are suffering, how are they struggling with their businesses. There is no way just reading a report, right? Or let me look this dashboard and I will create immediately a solution, as you were saying, and immediately we are reacting, providing, okay, you need a training. No, not necessarily, right?
Yeah,
It's about
yeah,
listening and spending time with them.
And I think that also, I mean, adding to what you're saying, that's where you also need to help that leader understand that he's also part of the solution.
Exactly.
And I think that Inigo, that really brings us back
that,
to
David,
like
yes.
leadership. How is that caring leadership so critical at this moment? Because he shouldn't just be that person that is asking for fix this problem, but he's also part of fixing the problem, right?
Yeah. And we're living in a very uncertain times. So leaders have to be removing roadblocks. I keep saying all the time. Yvette, I wanted to jump before. I know we're breaking a little bit of script, but there's something very critical in one of the sessions, in one of the articles that you wrote, which was Margaret Spence's session. Tell us a little bit about that. Women and AI. What's happening? Why are women staying behind in AI adoption, or
yes. So one of the things that I really love Margaret's presentation, that it was amazing. She was amazing. It was because she showed how the data that we are managing today, and especially with AI, because it has its own biases, unfortunately, it will create more bias, which means for women like the ceiling to continue growing and develop and explore in areas that we were not exposed to before. So her recommendation is that, well, first of all, women must continue preparing herself, developing the skills, and asking for spaces when they can show up, when they can set a strategy to be, on the table, deciding and opening opportunity for more women. And one of the things that we can do that, and she was very intentional on that, is about learning and be especially knowledgeable in the all AI transformation, how we can use AI for our own growth and creating more opportunities to ourselves, especially because we know that still there's a lot of gap, huge gap between genders, and opportunities might be fewer if we don't really take this transformation that we are going through and change the direction that will be beneficial for us, for women especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would add to your comment, Yvette, because one of this the presentations I went to was about frontline workers. Those workers that are the actual people that sell things, create things, and there was also an analysis about them, and there was only 20% of adoption in AI, and in this group of workers, and they are the ones that probably are in the biggest risk of having most of their tasks automated.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's quite important. It was quite important. The message was, you cannot think as a company to train people that haven't adopted AI through technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that you need to understand your learner and get back to understanding who they are and what they need, because otherwise you are not helping, your skills gap. You're all talking about, talent scarcity. However, that, group, which is the biggest percentage of workers in our talent workforce are not ready for that change, and we need to take care of them as well,
Yes.
because they do need to, close that gap so that we can have a workforce ready for the next step.
Totally. Yeah. Redesigning and the career path is crucial now more than ever. Definitely. So, Inigo, tell us, why is coaching the bridge between personal growth and organizational transformation?
Thank you for the question, Yvette. So, coaching is not a luxury; it's actually a necessity in most organizations. People need to have better conversations, difficult conversations. People need to create trust in teams. People need to have accountability, right? Make themselves responsible for what they decided. I take this project on, and I will do it until I finish the project, right? So we need coaching. Now, the problem is coaching. We can have external coaches, internal coaches. We can create group circles of coaching. And it was interesting that in the article that I mentioned, Joanne Peterson, who talks about the coaching and culture, it's important to create a constant, a culture of lifelong learning and feedback constantly, right? From the managers to the employees, and from the employees to the managers too. People need to speak up to leaders, because sometimes, many times, leaders are not behaving in accordance to their values, in accordance to the company's values, and the values are in a wall, but nobody leaves those values, right? So coaching is a great tool to transform people, to make sure people grow, make sure people grow personally first, learn about themselves, what are their weaknesses, their strengths, their genius areas, and they put them into service in the roles that they're developing in the companies, right? So sometimes we bring in only coaches when we have to fix a leader, or we're having a toxic behavior in a leadership. But I think coaching should be spread out, should be democratized. There's certain companies who are incorporating AI coaching already for regular employees, frontline employees, what you were talking about, Joanna. So I think there's a mix. I think it's crucial to build trust, to develop emotional intelligence, emotional skills, and to develop organizations who are courageous, who want to move forward, who are not afraid of change, who are not afraid of the AI disruption that is coming. And that links a little bit to Yvette. How do you see, what do you hope people get out of reading our ebook? Why should people read our ebook? What's in there? What's important?
Well, what I hope readers take away from this ebook is a real shift, as we were talking about during this conversation, in how they see themselves, in how they see their teams, and their responsibility in shaping the future of work. It's not relying on anybody else, it's relying on us. At this point, awareness is not just enough, it requires really actions. And what I mean with action is that leaders often underestimate the impact of their own assumption. I've seen this repeatedly, right? Like label someone as not future ready, not given the right opportunity, because we are just continuing the way that we have been working for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, regardless the system that we have in place. So it's about changing our mindset, because we are really living the transformation nowadays. So the shift is designing learnings, how they are allocating opportunities, and how they are building trust with their customer, internal customer, in a way that we can provide more equitable learning and development opportunities. And why did I say that? Because the data confirmed this urgency, and we discussed that in our ebook. 80% of organizations say that they are going through a major transformation, yet fewer than 30% feel really confident that their internal talent is ready for it. And we were mentioning, and this one of the topics that we are talking in our ebook is that people is afraid of, they don't know. And Joanna also mentioned that. And I don't know how I would be changing, what would be my work. And HR and talent professionals play a critical role here to really understand the context and start designing powerful and meaningful learning experience. because here the real gap is not technological, it's human, it's cultural, and it's absolutely solvable, it's addressable, and the responsibility is on us. The future of work that we mentioned is something that we do not prepare. I mean, is we are leading that. And this is our key message at the end of our ebook, and that we hope that that you enjoy.
So, Yvette, I want to explore a little bit, if I may. You said the future of work is human. Expand on that idea. Tell us a little bit more about that. What do you think?
Well, thank you. Yes, because could be a long conversation, but that everybody think that like the future will be just AI, and yes, actually it will be AI because it will solve a lot of problems. Business will scale, will replace millions of jobs, but on the other hand, it will create more opportunities. In the other hand, it will create different type of jobs. And in the other hand, AI will not replace, never, the capacity that we have to empathize with somebody, our creativity of human beings. At the end of the day, it is a tool, but we have, fortunately, we are so blessed to have the capacity in our mind, in our heart, to create amazing things. So my call here is not to be afraid of, is to understand what is happening, how I can really leverage this technology to be beneficial for us as human, right? To be beneficial, not to work against us as human. And I'm talking about the entire world population. But definitely, if we keep ourselves learning, nurturing, as you mentioned, Inigo and Joanna, our inner self, developing our emotional intelligence, those things will never be replaced by any AI because we are unique. So this is when we talk about that it's human. It's not just a fancy, word to say that. It's because we truly have to believe that. And as a consequence, start new actions in our day-to-day life, in our career, and especially impacting our organization with more purpose. Yeah, definitely. So let me go back to Joanna. Now that as we are almost closing our webinar, is what step do you think, Joanna, that an learning and development professional or area should take to adopt AI, more successfully?
Um, I I'm going to first start with a little bit of my experience with AI, and then coming back to the steps to for L&D professionals to adopt AI. So I've been working with people that are modeling AI right now to solve solutions and to automate processes.
Mhm.
And first, I mean, as you said, right, it's not to fear. It's not to fear. Why? Because we're still in a stage in which AI, generative AIs, which most people are using, and some people are starting to use agents, not many yet. But what is happening is that we're, again, automating processes. AI agents, what they do is connect an Excel with a Word, with a PPT, and then you have a beautiful presentation, for example. So it's just automating and doing tasks that are repetitive and that are programmable, and you can write a prompt, connect all the pieces, and then have an outcome. We're still away from the moment when AI is going to be totally independent and making decisions, and I don't think that's going to happen because we still see AI making lots of mistakes, and that's because it always depends on humans.
Yes.
We transfer biases to AI. We transfer errors to AI. So
Mhm.
it's still,
Correct.
it
Mhm.
depends on the and human criteria, and
Yeah.
that's why we need to start developing that criteria and that critical thinking that is going to help us use AI in a better way. So we're still not in a moment in which AI is going to be completely automated and independent. We're in the process of understanding how to use it so that it and heightens our capacity and our capability. So as long as we, get into trying and testing and finding where we should input AI, I mean, we're going to probably be prepared for that, for the future of work in general. So, then coming back to what you were saying, right? AI adoption is not only technological, it's emotional, it's cultural, and it's strategic. It's necessary for you to become that person that is going to use AI to improve the work that they do. So what we have to come back then is to self-awareness. Can we ask ourselves, where am I today in my use of AI? How open am I to experimenting with AI? And what skills do I need to develop so that I can start using AI? Like, again, we're learning professionals. We know that there is a part of knowledge and there's a part of practice. So you kind of start, getting out knowledge about how to create a prompt, what types of AI they are. But then you need to move yourself into practice and to use. And that's what we saw, in the ebook. You're going to find information about, types of prompt and what things can be used in agents and how you can connect different workflows so that you can have an automated process. But then you need to start somewhere. And it's important you start small. And I'm coming back to Simone Biles, when, like going in, start with one thing at a time, and then start with one workflow, one draft, and one experiment. So in ATD, we saw specific and concrete examples, AI supporting instructional design, analyzing learner feedback, accelerating onboarding materials, or even planning a whole learning experience. But, every one of those stories began with somebody experimenting and not expecting perfection.
Yes.
Because, we're still human, we make mistakes, and we have to be willing to make mistakes so that we can go into the next step. So that is why, intelligent failure also matters. We learn, we adjust, and we try again. And progress becomes confidence. So, you need to
I
go
love when
to...
you say that, yes. We shouldn't expect perfection.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then that's what turns finally into transformation, right? I mean, you try, you fail, you get up again, and then you keep transforming and evolving through time. So, the result is not only productivity, it's balance, right? You will find your day probably reducing in manual tasks that for some people are boring. That's me. I don't like manual repetitive tasks. So for me, AI comes, perfectly. So it does reduce my workload in the day-to-day work. So, well, yeah, that's what I think are the steps to implementing AI in your work.
Wonderful. Well, yes. and I think that just to start closing, I would like to go back to you, Inigo, in one of your wonderful speaking when you talk about Ubuntu. And I think that this is the perfect things to close, especially the thing that we were talking about, the AI and the transformation. So why should organization adopt Ubuntu as a way of operating?
So let me explain what is Ubuntu. Thank you, Yvette, for the question. Ubuntu is I am because we are. We are all connected at the human level, right? At the heart level. It's a South African philosophy. It comes from Africa. It was actually developed by several tribes in South Africa. And they've lived for many, many years on the basis of that person has Ubuntu. That person cares about others, connects with others, thinks about the we instead of the me. And we live in societies, especially in Western societies, that we only think about ourselves. Even when we come to work, I'm thinking, what is in it for me, right? It's not what is in it for the whole group, for the organization. So we need to start shifting that mindset. And it's interesting that those lessons, we can learn them from Africa, right? From where we all came from. Every single human being came from Africa. So it's an ancient tradition. It comes, even Nelson Mandela, Bishop Desmond Tutu evangelized people about having Ubuntu, living in a society where we care about everybody. And we can translate it into communities, into organizations. And that was my session. I spoke about the importance of thinking about the we as an organization, right? guided by a strong organizational purpose. What's the purpose of my organization? Connectivity for everybody in the world. Okay, how do we do that in our day-to-day job? How my role is aligned with that overall organizational purpose, right? So I spoke very briefly about the 5 Ps, right, of connecting, bringing Ubuntu to the organization, which is basically create organizations that are people-centered, human-centered, which we talk about from the beginning of this webinar today. We talk about bringing permeable walls where we break silos, many problems. Most of the, I would say 90% of the problems in organizations is they work in silos, each department, right? I've got a lot of experience working with multinationals, and I see these huge multinationals, and they don't communicate between each other, many departments, right? Even not between countries, but even within the same country, the organization works in separate silos. So Ubuntu brings you the opportunity to break those silos, right? It also talks about the mindset of we. It started having a collective loyalty, right? A mindset of let's put the we before the me. What's in it for me? No, what's in it for all of us in the organization? Think about the long term, how we can, in the long term, survive as an organization with everything that is happening right now, the AI disruption, the ambiguity, the instability, the geopolitics that we're living right now. So we need more we than a me mentality, right? And we also have to wrap it up with every single organization has to be productive, of course. So it's productivity tied to the organizational purpose. So I think we're in a moment in humanity with AI kicking our doors and disrupting every single market that we need more of a humanity, collective humanity. We need more of we. And that ties us to the end of our conversation today, which is a little bit like our main question that we want to leave you with is, are you living the transformation or you just surviving? Are you in a survival mode? Are you, I want to leave them with this question, but I want each one of us to just, do some closing thoughts. So why don't we start with Joanna? Joanna, what do you recommend people? Why should people get our ebook and what they're going to get out of it, right? In this current context of transformation.
I think that the essence of this ebook is that it's not a collection of notes, right? It's actually a door to reflection and to courage and to action, because you're going to see that each chapter is actually giving you a question so that you can, wander around, sit in your mind, reflect, and see what learning you can get. So it's actually designed to help leaders, HR teams, and talent professionals to turn global insights into actual local impact. And coming back to your Ubuntu, right? Thinking about sharing with everybody and thinking about us instead of me, we can share with you, you can share it with the organization that you work with or your peers. And then we start bringing in, a we mentality together. So, and we start today, not someday. So, I think that will push us to action. And we really created this ebook with the most valuable ideas from ATB so that they don't get locked inside and they in a conference, like in a conference hall, but reach every leader and every person who's navigating uncertainty and building the future alongside their people. So, that's why I think that people should actually, get in the QR code, and it's this way, right? So this way. So they can find this wonderful collection of ideas and thought bringing questions that actually help you reflect.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being here with us today. This conversation, as we say, matter because the future of works is already unfolding. We know that. And leaders like you are the ones shaping it. So we create as we all we call ourselves Somos Cuatro in Espanol, like we are four in English, right? And we created Dare to Transform a book for exactly this moment, like your next step for practical insights that you can start questioning yourself and and start implementing actions right away. So go to this QR code and scan that, and you can buy your ebook and start reading and having new ideas and a fresh mindset.
Joanna, Yvette, I wanted to just one little comment that I thought because we still have a slightly time. We don't have any questions on the audience, but how do we help people manage the psychological effects of will I be replaced by AI? What are your thoughts on that?
Do you want to start, Joanna, or should I?
Sorry. I thought the question was for you, Yvette, or for me?
Okay.
For Yvette, because she.
Okay. Well, for me, sorry. Okay. So, how do we? Well, it's like it's better to know kind of your enemy, but it's not our enemy. But for me, is to really start like listening all this noise that is around, right? When you see, I'm being replaced or be terminated, there are so many people now on the street because they are transforming the teams and etc. But for me, is really understanding what it means to really read about it or watch some podcasts or information like hold yourself knowledgeable about what AI is doing and where the future is. And once you have this clarity, you start to say, okay, that is cool. As Joanna mentioned, that AI at the end of the day is being trained by us, and it has the bias that we have, right? And it has the information that we submitted, and then we will continue submitting it. AI is learning from us. And at some point, it could be scary because if it goes like further, right? We don't know who will manage that. But hopefully, I think that it would be still rely on the human capacity to set these boundaries and to set these limitations. So my call, instead of connect with this fear, emotion, like a feeling of afraid of, like a lowering your vibration, is to take actions to understand what is really happening and to open your mind to see how should I leverage this technology, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's with your Alexa, it's with your robot, it's with in your car, it's everywhere. So it's more like when you start to understand, okay, what is this doing for me, and how I can leverage that for my work. And as Joanna mentioned, is how I will reinvent myself, right? How can I use that new technology to really open my possibilities in my career or with my business, and expand myself, right? And especially for your career and your business. So it's not about to stop listening. No, I don't want to hear because this is scary and I prefer just to be. No, you cannot allow yourself to not be involved because we are already going through this transformation. Either you want or you don't want, we are going through that. And it's better to be informed, right? Like once you have knowledge, you will start understanding what is the real situation.
I have a question thank you, Yvette. I have a final question for Joanna. Joanna, I really like one sentence that you wrote in one of your articles on the ebook that says, reskill your L&D teams to act as facilitators, as curators and change agents. Can you expand a little bit on that thought?
Yes, of course. I would go with change agents, definitely. And I think, well, this comes about again, right, with how we start implementing AI, how we use our skills to help the organizations that we work in. And I also see it in my everyday work. So most of my work is helping companies embed technology into their HR processes. Mm-hmm. And you see two steps of resistance. The step of resistance of the HR team that is, and its source from the resistance on the business, because the first argument is is, are my leaders going to use this? I mean, am I going to change? Should I show this to the leaders or should I not? And that's where it comes, where this reflection comes from, is that finally we're the ones that need to transmit that, or share that confidence and be those support agents, change makers, and the ones that are going to help the business understand the positive sides, as Yvette just said. I mean, this can actually be a tool that helps you do your job better and faster. That's where the change makers are the people that are not afraid of trying new things, seeing the positive side of the change, and then helping others. And that comes back again to what you just said a bit before, right? We need to mirror what is it that we're looking for in our teams, so that they feel confident in adopting and using new, not only AI, because there's other tools aside of AI that are technological and help our jobs. So yes, that's where the change makers are. You also start doing this by understanding who the people you work with are, because the argument that you're going to use may be different for each. So, and that's where you start, working with the people. I had a session last week with a company that wanted to start using AI for upskilling and reskilling and technology as well to improve, because we were just talking about that, right? I mean, especially with ageism, how do you actually define who has potential and who doesn't?
Exactly.
Because that potential is most of the time is subjective because of what I think, not because of what that person is actually capable of. And that technology can bring you that as well, can bring you the opportunity to see things from a more objective side of things, instead of, and there being all that biases that you may carry with you because of age, because of the profession somebody studied, when actually most people are moving laterally in their profession in different ways. And I don't know if either one of you saw that ATD publication from last week. And they were talking about V profiles, T profiles, I profiles. It was quite interesting. It was quite interesting because we used to have the T profiles, right? The T profiles are people that are very professional. I mean, very much specialized in one area, but then have, top level information in different areas. And then you had the V ones that are, like start from bottom, but then they have a very wide spread of knowledge.
Yeah.
But there were others now, because you have, remote workers, you have people, agile teams, you have so many varieties in new ways of work that you can actually find your place anywhere. So yes, technology is bringing this together so that we can do so many more things that we could do before, and bring a little bit of objectivity to it as well.
Linking it to what you just said, Joanna, I think, and I think Yvette nailed it with her article about ageism and her session about ageism with Tonya Wilson. Is like we're discouraging people by age, and it's happening all over. It's now happening in the United States, which, I am from Europe. I'm used to it since 20 years ago. Yes, have been pushed away at age 45, 50, 55. Big multinationals would, get rid of people. Now they're going the reverse way, right? It's happening with Japan because it's an aging society. It's happening with Spain, where I'm from, with
China, everywhere, yes.
China, they're kicking people out, and now it's like, we need those people because where's the knowledge? It's going out the door, and we need workers because we don't have, the birth rates are very low.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there will be a storytelling. Yeah, definitely. Well, we just have an hour. Thank you so much for joining us in this live event. And as I say, we invite you to get your ebook, and we will have our conversation in Spanish tomorrow. And we also have the ebook in Spanish for those of you that want to buy it. And the invitation here is invited, and also review it and let us know through LinkedIn. We can connect in LinkedIn and keep this conversation alive. So thank you.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.